How's it going, everyone? It's Foxxy. Here's something I haven't done in many years. Today I'll be reviewing a butterfly knife, also known as a balisong. Well, to be more accurate, it's a trainer, but regardless. I got this nameless trainer from eBay for about $14 with free shipping. But before I move on to the review, there's something strange I want to point out. The packaging, sheath, and the trainer itself all have Benchmade branding on it. Now, of course, this is obviously fake as hell, but Benchmade never made a knife or trainer that even looks remotely like this. The only thing that resembles the Benchmade in any possible way is the spring latch, which I'll talk about later in this review. I've never owned a Benchmade and probably never will just due to how expensive they are, but is this packaging similar to what you would get in a real Benchmade knife? I ask this because there's a lot of information on the back of the box that is shockingly accurate. They mention the real founder's name, the address of the company, and even the whole Life Sharp thing that Benchmade advertises. I did, out of curiosity, search the number at the bottom of the box here, but nothing came up, so it's possible they copied the box from another product and swapped the model number for something random. I don't know. If you have a Benchmade, you would have to tell me. With that said, now we can move on to the review. The purpose of having one of these trainers is that you could flip these without obviously being able to cut yourself. Nor can you sharpen the metal to make a blade due to these holes. It would just make the metal way too brittle and it would eventually break. As I mentioned earlier, this trainer has a spring latch that's both awesome and interesting for a cheap Chinese balisong. Usually you see this feature on higher priced knives such as brands like Spyderco or real Benchmades, but rarely ever on Chinese ones like this. It may not be the highest quality in terms of spring latches, but it does the job perfectly. The only somewhat negative thing I could point out is that when the knife is locked in the open position, it's a little bit difficult to squeeze the handles to pop out the latch. Another interesting aspect about this knife is there's no visible screws or pins on the handles. I'm not exactly sure how they put these together, but from what I could barely make out, there are washers in between the handles and the blade. So based off of that, I'm assuming that they do in fact use screws and somehow seal them inside the handle. This is actually a really good thing because that means that there's virtually zero possibility that a screw could pop out on you in the middle of flipping, which, yes, has happened to me before, causing the knife to go flying out of my hand. Needless to say, this is very dangerous. If you do have a butterfly knife that uses screws, I highly recommend using products like Loctite or Thread Locker to prevent any sort of accidents like that. I guess the next thing we could move on to is the handles in more detail. Well, you may be able to see this, at least I would hope. The dragon design, both in terms of the etching detail and the amount of black coloration, vastly differ between the two sides of the handles that I'm showing you. It's the same on the other side as well. You can easily tell they mass-produced these handles based off only the side with the latch, because if you look here you can make out the holes where the latch would have been placed. Now, let me point this out. Both this and the inconsistent detailing on the dragons are not that big of deals. I mean, they're very minor things, especially if you're in the market for a cheap butterfly knife or trainer like this. Now, if this were an issue on like a $30 or $50 knife and up, then yeah, okay, I could see people complaining, and quite frankly, I don't think I'd be that happy about it myself. Finally, let's talk about the performance. Once you get used to the knife, it's honestly really nice. I'm able to do basic tricks to advanced tricks, and even the occasional aerials just perfectly fine. I say once you get used to the knife for two reasons. One, the handles don't have that much in the way of grip, so it slides off your fingers much easier than one that has texturing on the handles or perhaps holes. The other reason is that this knife is on the heavier side. To be more specific, this knife weighs exactly 5.9 ounces. Most balisongs I've used tend to be around the 4 to 6 ounce range. I prefer my balisongs around 5 ounces, I just find them easier to flip, but of course everyone is different. Because this knife is a spring latch and really has no handle play whatsoever, it makes flipping the knife very quiet compared to most other balisongs that I've used in the past. So before we wrap this review up, I'll show off a few tricks and combos to give you guys an idea of how quiet and how smooth the knife performs. Alright, so now to my final thoughts on this fake Benchmade trainer. I really like it. Despite the kinda crap cosmetic issues, I like how it flips, and after dropping this countless times, it hasn't shown any signs of breaking anytime soon. For the price, you really can't beat it. You don't have to worry about the screws or rivets popping out on you, and as a trainer, you don't have to worry about accidentally cutting yourself. I would absolutely 100% recommend this product if you are looking for a cheap yet durable trainer balisong. I purchased this going into it with a pessimistic expectation, and it turns out that it's probably one of my favorite balisongs that I own so far. Maybe one day I can own a real Spyderco or Benchmade, but I'm not in any hurry.